But in terms of everything just far, this is from what we talked about briefly. Lunar eclipse in Pisces, there's a boundaries theme
Interesting.
that's coming up, right?
Yeah.
You were talking about boundaries beforehand as well. Okay, the reason why this is important though is because like when it comes to Virgo season and Virgo season in general, let's start there, right? Because everyone knows a Virgo and everyone has an opinion about Virgo. Whether you love Virgo, you snickered a little bit about Virgo because I know those Virgos. I have a close friend who's a Virgo. I understand. I was raised by a Virgo. Shit, when we start to think about it, right? But in terms of Virgo's energy, one thing about them intrinsically is that they're set up to be helpful. Now, whether they're actually being helpful or not may vary, but they're set up to be helpful. They are, even if they're scolding you, they're trying to show you something that no one else is brave enough to show you, right? Even if they're like talking to you from a very analytical point, typically they're trying to be like, yo, I want to let you know this so the world can't hurt you with these details that you're missing. And that's something that I really do realize and recognize when it comes to just the Virgo energetic, is that at its core level, it wants to serve, it wants to help, right? Now, the thing about Virgo season is that when it is Virgo season, Virgos are on vacation. Everyone else is dealing with the shit they have to on a day-to-day basis. So all the details that are coming to you, why do I need these boundaries now? Oh, well, all the details coming in. Oh, I have to step up and I despite the details of people doubting me, despite the details of people talking about me negatively, and I'm still standing here making sure that I get to teach the people that need to be taught. That's the Virgo essence of I'm going to do what has to be done. Regardless of if it's supposed to be done, regardless of if someone else is picking it up, I'm going to do it because no one else is going to do it. And if you've ever felt that as a concept, that's Virgo energy, right? Like even if you felt it for like a little bit. Why? Because Virgo is the quintessential sign of getting it done, of being the earth angel, of being the person who does serve for the purpose of serving, for the purpose of actually like helping the person next to them. Now, we're talking about all this extra stuff and that's not close to the feelings that we're feeling. So what's actually happening on that side, right? So with this lunar eclipse in Pisces, right? So whenever there's a lunar eclipse or a full moon, it's because the sun is in one sign and the moon is at its exact opposition. And that's the tug of war that the world pulls in order for us to release the things that are really difficult for us to, especially in theme to what's going on. Just to give y'all some context, right? So when it comes to the full moon in Pisces, which is a lunar eclipse in Pisces, right? We know what full moons feel like. Full moons happen, we're intense. Full moons happen, we're crying, puking, throwing up in the club, whatever the case is, right? Sometimes it's fine. We're having the best of times. Sometimes we're the full moon. Oh, I'm having the best time, fuck everybody, right? Sometimes we're feeling the full moon. I'm at home, I want my pop credit. Right, like it's one of those things where like the full moon just guarantees the fact that emotions are heightened, the fact that you feel into your feelings. Now, when it comes to this lunar eclipses are 10 times the amount of regular full moon. So if you're used to drinking the yerba mate, the matcha, this is the 4-shot espresso, which you didn't think existed, that you just chugged back because your friend didn't tell you. That's the type of feeling. It's overwhelming, to be honest with you. And I think like we have been so overwhelmed by feelings over the past 6 months plus in general, that the fact that there's an overwhelming amount of feeling coming into the space that we're already coming into, it's like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do? And we shrink inside. We shrink inside. I love that y'all were talking earlier. The reason why I love that y'all were talking earlier is why? It's emotional. Y'all were girl talking. Y'all were kikiing, as we like to say, right? But in terms of the kikiing, what is that? It's an emotional event, right? Like it is y'all talking about the feeling of what's happening. Because if we want to look at it from a super analytical point, y'all know what's happening. Y'all know what's going on. Y'all can point out, oh, this is this. Oh, I'm triggered by this. Oh, this happened because when I was 5. Blah, 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 blah. We know, right? But we don't feel into what we know. And we're taught to feel out of what we know. And so when you start to feel into what you know, after being talked out of what you know, it is a jarring experience. It hurts. It's not fun. Again, we're back to crying, puking, and throwing up in the club. Why? I'm here to have a good time, right? And I think one thing that I really want to point out is that collectively, people are in more pain than, I don't want to say ever, but for the first time in a very long time, we've been so interconnected that we're starting to feel the pulse of one another's like issues, of one another's pain. The coworker or the person at your office that you would have never got along with, you're starting to see where they're coming from, right? The person who's like completely opposite view from you, something happens to them, and you're like, oh no, you stubbed your toe? You stubbed your toe? Oh, we're all people, aren't we? And even if it's just that moment for a bit, what I really think the axis of Virgo and Pisces really represents is the axis of like humanity. Why? Because humans are born to be dreamers. We're delusional as shit. We're spiritual creatures, despite anything else, right? But the Virgo part is like, okay, you're a spiritual creature, cool. What about your bills? Oh, your bank account went underneath. Now you feel like this, right? But here's the question. If that does happen, do you let your spirit feel lesser than because of something that happened in a worldly term, right? Do you let yourself diminish how you feel? Diminish the love that you're able to push out into the world because you don't have what they prescribe what love is supposed to look like, what they prescribe what situations or life is supposed to look like, right? I'm dropping the fires because I'm a fire sign. It's all my fault. Anyway, but the reason why I'm really pointing this out, right, is because the axis of Virgo and Pisces at the end of the day is about reality and dreams. And every time you hear somebody talk about their dreams, they tell you about how delusional they had to get. I had to believe that I was going to, I'm gonna use an example that I know personally, right? When I was growing up, one of my first CDs ever was a Kanye West CD. I know, don't shoot, I'm sorry, listen, he's a great artist, whatever. But,
I agree.
for sure, hey. But the reason why I'm pointing this out to start off is because like, when I first really got into music, modern time in my life, past the 90s stuff, past Tupac, Biggie, etc. It was when it was Kanye and 50 Cent. And they were my two favorite artists at the time of like all time. I love both of them for different reasons. And I remember their beef and they were like, hey, whoever sells the most records is the better artist, right? And I'm pointing this out because 50 Cent at the time, he had this motif in his whole motion of things pushing forward for himself. As a water sign, he's a Cancer, right? The thing was get rich or die trying. And I'm sure you've heard this before, right? I'm from the East Coast, so there's a very it's in my blood in terms of just how that works, right? But it's get rich or die trying. And the main thing about the concept of like get rich or die trying, when he talks about it now, he's like, no, like literally, I was going to go get rich or you were going to watch me die trying. And I know that sounds so extra and that's to the umpteenth, that's a very eclipse-like thought. Not to say that you have to hop into those thoughts, but the severity of an eclipse will bring that sensibility into the things that are most important to you, right? So why I'm saying the get rich and die trying scheme, because guess what? He got rich. He did all the details. He did all the in-betweens. He paid attention to the numbers, to how things were moving, to how his audience was moving to him. He knew he was going to lose. He knew he was going to lose the feud and he took a different pivot. Let me dive more into vitamin water. Let me dive more into my other ventures. At the end of the day, the money's going to be the same. Now we're thinking about this in terms of, did he lose? Sure. But he's a director now. He does whatever else he wants in terms of production. And then one of them we can't even say without being blacklisted, right? So it goes to show that like, let's use Kanye. I love Kanye, but I'm gonna have to get at you, bro. So he is a pure dreamer, pure delusion, pure, I just got this thought streamed from God and I'm gonna fuck it up. As soon as I say it out loud, I'm gonna screw it up. And it sucks because most people can feel half of what he's saying all the time. But his inability to Virgo, his inability to actually get into the details, an ability to see other people explaining the details is a lack of Virgo. So when you lack a Virgo and you're all delusion in the Pisces realm, you're going to lose out on your dream because you can't see the reality of how to actually make those steps, right? But if you're too into your reality, if you're too into the crunching numbers, you can never be like, you want to know what? I can get rich and live. And I could just keep going. And I could just make more stuff. And I can like add more into my artistry. I could add more into my catalog, right? The reason why I'm mentioning all of these things just as concept and things that we listen to, we know their music, whether you like their music or not, right? But the reason why is because, again, it's up to you to find your balance of your dreams and reality, right? To give y'all some context personally, when I first moved here to LA, I actually moved here, I think, right before a lunar eclipse. And I think it was like about the same sign. It was in September, about like 6 years ago. And when I first came out here, I didn't know if I was going to stay. I came out here, literally, I brought like half of a suitcase, not even, my little backpack with just my music and laptop in it. And I was like, screw it. I'm gonna make it work for this like week and a half. I'm staying with some family friend. We're gonna be fine, cool. Slowly transitions into, hey, if you can find a job, you can stay. I found a job in the next 2 days. So I got a job, right? Cool. But I wanna point this out. I got a job. I went to a situation. I even got into a situation where I could have gone into the music industry. All in the same, I wanna say like, umph. And before I moved out here, that's what I was doing. I was into music. I had studied, not at Berklee College as a student, but I was at Berklee College in music for several summers. And I would just hide inside of their classes and duck inside of their different labs and different studio sessions that they would have and just like absorb all the things that I could. Which is why I'm so extra about audio now and all this other stuff, right? So it carries forward. But the reason why I'm mentioning all this is because I had a potential. I went to this career fair. It was music. It was like all the things that like I was moving across the country for. But then I was like, wait, I'm at this job fair. Why are they serving Ciroc? Wait a second, I'm at a job fair. I just saw somebody, that don't look right. Is this a party? Is this a job fair? Where am I at? And my intuition felt wrong. I was invited into different rooms in terms of like, hey man, you have the vibe. We heard part of your music come through there. And I was like, I have to go to my job tomorrow or the day after that. No. I was like, no. But why am I saying this? Because my dream at the time, the Pisces part of me, the dreamer part of me would have been like, do anything. Screw it, go for it. Just go in, just make it happen, whatever, right? The other side on the Virgo part was like, hell no. Nope, I don't like that. I don't like the way they looked at me. I don't like the way they sniffled right there a second ago. And I don't like the way that homie all the way over there in the corner started smirking when they said something to me. I don't like it. Now, in hindsight, beforehand, maybe I would have been like, I missed about an opportunity, right? Then in foresight, I'm like, damn, that was supposed to be a Diddy event. And I'm like, yo, wait a second, right? Now the reason why I'm explaining all this is because like, did I like dodge that? Absolutely, for sure. But in terms of this, I was like, instead of just the music, because honestly, that was a thing that I was most into that I knew was accepted by my family. I'm from a family full of people who are either into music, raised on music. There was always music playing in the house. I always try to keep music on, even if I'm working, whatever the case is, it has to be on, right? I have to make it. It has to be on. There has to be some expression of it, right? That Piscean feeling, word? On the other side of things, I'm super analytical. I was raised by a Virgo. You got to see the in-betweens of the in-betweens. You're wrong. Okay, you were right, but you were wrong because of the way you said it. What? Hey, you were right, but you were wrong because of you didn't dot your T's and cross the I's and oops, I said it wrong, but actually you did it wrong. So now, we're getting into two different feelings again, right? This is why I want to point this out. We're getting into this like, I can't do anything right. Let me move some things around. Nobody look at me crazy, right? It's Virgo energy. And Pisces is just like, life is supposed to be my, delight. right? Both of these things exist within all of us, whether you have Virgo in your chart, Pisces in your chart, or not. These are things that exist within us. So when we have this lunar eclipse in Pisces, it's about where does this happen in our charts, right? Now, for those of y'all who are watching, you should know. And if you don't know, figure it out. But in terms of the other portion of this, right? The lunar eclipse in Pisces, at the end of the day, wants to open up and remind you that you're a spirit in a human experience and not the other way around, right? The reason why I like to talk about music when I talk about things like that is because even if we get rid of all of the layers of what we see from them, we just know what it feels like, right? As much as I could be like, damn, Kanye, what the hell? We still know what a Kanye song feels like. And I remember when I was younger, when the Kanye would start singing, I'd be like, I am delusional. I'm the greatest thing that ever existed. And no one can tell me any different, right? Full on delusion. On the other side, but then again, that was the power. When you hear that music, you're like, oh, I feel this power. And that's why we feel so fucked up now. Because then we look at the details of the Virgo and we're like, I can't support you, bro. I can't support this. And this is the other side of this. So now we're gonna get to Virgo. So the main thing that I want to point out with this lunar eclipse in Pisces is that, like, I personally would recommend if you can do like an audit on yourself. Now what an audit is in general, and I'm gonna fuck this up a little bit, but an audit is in general is a concept of like, hey, here's what we've been doing in the business, here's what things have been looking like, here's how things have been succeeding, here's how things haven't been succeeding. But it's having that honest conversation about like what those things actually look like, right? Not to our egos, not to what we think things we're supposed to expect. You get what I'm saying? It's like what is actually happening. Because the truth of the matter is it's the reality that actually builds people's dreams. Where people think the dreams are built off the delusion, and it's not. And this is why this axis of this lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is the first release, and why the next new moon in 2 weeks in Virgo is also so important, because it's a solar eclipse. The next month of our lives is uber emotional. It just is. Like there's no other way for me to say that. I'm not trying to paraphrase, I'm not trying to BS y'all. It's just gonna be an emotive time in terms of things. And that's how it's designed to be. So it's not the matter of I'm feeling emotion, let me judge myself. I'm feeling emotion, let me shrink myself down. I'm feeling emotion, let me dead it. No. I'm feeling emotion, and how is the most responsible way for me to let this emotion be felt? Right? Whether that is art for some people, right? I know you meditate often. Just here in the crowd, right? Or you're a meditator in terms of this. Maybe you go to yoga or something like that, right? But everyone has to find their something, right? As much as I love astrology, which is very much the axis of the everything else in the world and the details of the human experience, I gotta get away from this shit sometimes. I'm too good at this. This shit is, it drives me insane. And if I don't step out of the, oh, I know this, then I'll lose out on the human experience. I'll lose out on the reality of like what's in front of me, which is why it is so important for me to like at least try to do the spiritual portion of things. Because if I don't do the spiritual portion of things, it's hard for me to live a regular time. It's hard for me to go to work for like X amount of time to X amount of time. It's hard for me to just like do regular shit because there's such a powerful like spirit part of me that I gotta get out there. But I think that's not just personal. I think we all feel this way. I just think it's all a matter of like, where is it different for you? Or how is it different for you? Because a lot of people try to look at what's the same. What's the same with this? This person's normal, this person is this. But do they feel proper? Are they giving you a feeling of something to where you want to be like that? You want to emulate that. You want to tap into that, right? Because I was taught in my personal world up the wazoo of like who was supposed to be who I was supposed to emulate, right? And a lot of the people that I was told to emulate, I don't respect now. A lot of people that I was told to emulate passed away based off their causes. A lot of people I was told to emulate are martyrs to their cause. They didn't make it past 23 years old in terms of years of life, right? But those are the people that I was told to emulate in order to be any type of role model, to be any type of like important to a larger like crowd, to a larger everything else, right? And I'm not the only person who's experienced something like this. I think a lot of the times we get pressurized from either our family or society or school. You're supposed to fit in this box that Virgo set up for you, and you're supposed to do it. But who do we lean to? We lean to the dreamers. As much as you might know how to dot your T's, cross the I's, or vice versa, because I keep saying it wrong, right? Some people don't even do that. And it's still art, and it's still something, or makes you feel something, right? And that's the idea of this, is that Virgo and Pisces is the axis of art. Why? Because it takes some people 10 years to learn how to draw a stick figure. And some person just rolled out of bed one day and was like, person, and drew the same exact thing. This isn't a matter of like skill. It's a matter of like what resonates to you. Are you a dreamer? Are you a tactician? Are you a thinker? Are you a feeler? And beside any of those things that what you lean to, can you lean to the other side too? Because a lunar eclipse is like, fuck how you feel. I'm gonna make you feel. And so if you're going to be feeling regardless, okay, I feel this way. How long have I felt this way? Is this a new feeling? Or have I felt this way for years? Oh, this old feeling came back I didn't even know existed. Does this work in my life now? Or is this a pattern that I'm repeating? And what's different about a full moon to a lunar eclipse is full moons, you kind of are conscious about it. Oh, I got it this time. The astrology pretty man told me the things, I'll be fine, it's cool, I get it. Eclipses are like, feel or else. And the reason why I want to just kind of give you this context is because like, you may not feel the full intensity of it right now, but in the next 48 hours, 24 for y'all, but that 3-4 day stint is going to be like all of the wave, right? But now it's a matter of, okay, I feel the wave. I feel the changes. I feel the happenings. How do I ebb and flow with it? Or do I ebb and flow with it? Do I fight back? What's natural to you? Because I think a lot of the times we get into astrology, we get into spirituality, we get into everything else, but we really ignore the part of us that feels natural, that has the homeostasis, that is who they are before we get into morality politics, before we get into the idea of what everyone else is going to think. Like, what do you feel? Because that has to be pointed out first. And to be honest with y'all, most things that people feel are honestly ridiculous. Absolutely off the gourd. How do I feel like this? I feel so guilty because I'm feeling this feeling and I just can't stop it. Yes, but give yourself the room to feel that feeling, right? Step away from the fray. The Virgo thing would be like, I'm going to go hide away these feelings over this way, right? And not to say you have to hide your feelings, but that's something that I do want to point out that can be a tendency in terms of the lunar eclipse. So that's why I'm like, my suggestion, my homework, whatever the case you want to look at it for.
That's your homework.
My homework is like, what inspires you to create, right? And if something that inspires you to create happens to be writing, if what inspires you to create happens to be music, if what inspires you to create happens to be drawing, art, whatever the case is, it's just a matter of like, how do you slowly step back into that? Because one of the main things that exist in terms of the eclipse itself is that Virgo is about daily habits. What's the daily thing that you do? What do you build up upon when you do things in increments? What do you build up upon when you do things for a week straight and then you take a break, right? One of the things I think I seen this most on was when I was a kid, I was raised to play like classical piano, right? It was terrible, don't do it. But what I can say, right, is that in terms of like raising that, like melody still exists in me, is very like a part of this chord. But one of the most important things I think I got out of it was like, if I did choose to like practice this thing that I hated and was very outside of my wheelhouse, and I was just like, screw it, let me do this, it lived in my hands. And even if I was like, I just know how the song feels, I can play it again. And I think when it comes to things that people first have those real like connections towards, when in terms of technicality and art, we always get drawn back to one way or another. So if you're drawing as a kid, there's gonna be some type of part of you that wants to like make something later on, right? If you were a singer as a kid, if you don't get your ass in any type of music program that exists, you got to. Even if you're scribbling with your voice, even if you're scribbling with the like actual like instrument, it doesn't matter. The idea is letting yourself feel this, because as much as we pressurize ourselves on a day-to-day basis about, oh, this person's done this, oh, this person's at the top, they lived in a different world than us. And they didn't have access like that. So they were the people to be the ones brave enough to start to bring the access to us that we have now. But if I see some kid look at me and he's like, I'm a musician, I'm like, you damn sure are. Right? Versus maybe 10, 20 years ago, someone's like, you're a musician, but well, how many shows have you done? What can you play? Can you play Dancing Queen with your eyes closed? There's like this, like, there's a lot of doubt that a lot of us get raised into, especially people that were in Pluto, Libra, and on. So like I would say like about the 80s past that. A lot of doubt gets fed into that, right? But for the people that were born in the 80s to 60s and before, everything in their life was about being controlled. Right? So we can blame them for what is proper. However, there is a lot to that is also inherited. That is also partially in their genetics. And why I'm mentioning all these things is because the Virgo and Pisces axis is like, Virgo is your genetics, that's your gene pool, that's everything you was built off of, that's all your traumas, that's all the details of everything that happened in between. And Pisces is the part that can forgive yourself for dealing with that. And when the lunar eclipse in Pisces, when it does come through, it's like as overwhelming emotionally as it's supposed to be, it's just about forgiving yourself. I'm gonna leave it real silent for a second, cameras. No, but honestly, it is really about like forgiving yourself for the parts of you that didn't have the details, for the parts of you that didn't have the information required in order to make that change. But this is what the beauty of eclipses are, is that you don't know what the fuck's going on right now. Let's just be honest. But in the next 2 weeks, you'll know what you're supposed to start to do, right? In the next 2 weeks, you'll start to see how it's supposed to form. In the next 2 weeks, you're gonna see, oh wait, if I really do trust in how I feel, things can happen the way that I anticipated, or better yet, they can just create themselves. And that's the real axis of the Virgo and Pisces, is that we're in between the realities, we're in between dreams. And when we do choose to come together in terms of this, like right down the middle, we create art. We are spirit. We are all those cute, fun things that we like to talk about. I'm a fairy. I'm a wizard. I'm a this. Like, sure, but do you do the work in order to be called that, right? Do you do the work in order to be like required to be those like things? And that's where it's just a matter of your definition of who you are gets to change. But it starts with how you feel, not with what you think you're supposed to be. And that's like the main causer or the main themes that I have thus far when it comes specifically to this lunar eclipse in Pisces. Because again, in 2 weeks, will you have the details more so? Yes. Will the blueprint click in and you're like, holy shit, I should have done this 10 years ago? Probably. But are you going to sit there and judge yourself as you're finally getting the moments and be like, I got it. I can't believe I should have done that 3 weeks. I should have. Because that's the trick. And that's what happens to most people who don't believe in this shit. That's what happens to most people who refuse to look at anything that's spiritual or refuse to look at anything like that. Because sometimes it is scary knowing what's happening next. Do you know specifically? No. But the concept is grating for some people. Not everyone's meant to sit down in a nice little oasis space and like fully hear like the energies of what's going on. It's not everyone's built for that. But for the people that do need that, there's a reason for that too. For people who are seeking that, there is a deeper portion to this. The problem that we have sometimes is that sometimes people are a little too woo-woo and some people are a little too serious. I strive to be somewhere in between. But in terms of honestly, like this is how this actually works, is that it's like, do you believe in the person that your younger version of you was or is, right? If it wasn't for me looking back as often as I do to like 6-year-old me, to 7-year-old me and be like, am I that kid superhero? And I look at it, I'm like, fuck yeah, I am. But how long did that take me? At least 6 years of like really like going through the motions of learning how to hurt, of learning how to love, of learning how to accept myself, of learning how to hate myself in a way that makes me motivated to bring more love into the world. And it sounds fucked up, but it's one of those like genuine experiences where like that feeling that I have, pure Virgo. Ooh, I'm gonna find everything wrong with you, right? And then the Pisces part is when people saw that hurt in me and was like, thank you for showing me that that's a real thing. Because without you showing me that was a real thing, I would have thought that I was just in my own head. And so this is why I wanted to just tell y'all all these themes that are going through, because it's going to be one way or another or free flowy. Why it's an eclipse? Now, in 2 weeks from now, a month from now, when I start talking to y'all about the new moons and full moons, I'm exact as hell. I ain't nothing going to be off from what I'm saying at all. But because it's an eclipse, there is a lot of wiggle room for you to feel into what it means for what those things are to begin with. And so when it comes to this full moon eclipse, with this lunar eclipse specifically, words, whatever, fuck it. But this is making sure that you know, again, that you are a soul inhabiting a human experience and not the other way around. Okay, that's my first part to lunar eclipse and stuff. I said a lot of things. How y'all feeling thus far? I have more things if we need. How's it going? Whoever wants to start, if you want to start. You want to chime in, no chime in. You want to chime in, no chime in. You want to chime in, no chime in. That's fine. Let's start talking more shit. So,